If I say Australia, what do you think about? A peaceful, rich, and friendly country. The worst thing about it, maybe the giant spiders, or the giant snakes, or the giant lizards. But overall, a great place. It's like imagining that perfect neighbor that everybody thinks they want. For most of my life, that was the image in my head. But before I explain why it changed so drastically, I want to point one thing out. If by the end of this video you hate the Australian government, that's perfectly fine. But don't hate the Australian people. They're just normal people, like everybody else, living their lives the best they can. The government never asked them for their opinion. It never asked them for permission. And in fact, it did everything it could to prevent them from finding out. But the truth did come out, and I want to help spread it to the 20 people that will watch this YouTube video, 5 of which are my friends that already know this, because they had to listen to me rant about how much I hate this entire situation. In order for you to understand what happened, I have to introduce you to the hero of our story, and also its victim. This is Timor Leste, or East Timor, an island nation north of Australia. In 2002, after centuries of Portuguese occupation and decades of Indonesian occupation, Timor Leste was finally free. But that was just the beginning. The island country had its independence, but not much else. The vast majority of the country did not have schools, hospitals, or roads. All this, from the start, led to East Timor becoming one of the world's poorest nations. But there was one hope. Just south of their coast were significant oil and gas fields that Australia has been using for decades. The biggest and most important of which is the Greater Sunrise gas deposit. The money the country could get from that could be used to build hospitals, schools, ports, airports, everything it needed to provide a better life for its citizens. In time, it could become wealthy and prosperous. There was just one problem. Although the oil fields were much closer to East Timor shores than any others, Australia wanted them as well. Still, East Timor was not going to give up. They were on a mission to improve the lives of their people, and they were ready to stand up to their far more powerful neighbor. This just meant they needed to negotiate. But these negotiations were not fair. The Australian Secret Service planted listening devices in the government buildings of East Timor. Their mission was to find out what's the lowest amount the island country would settle for. When they knew that, they could make sure that they give East Timor the bare minimum. The entire operation was ordered by this guy, Alexander, one of the worst Australians to ever live. If you can remember him, he will be important later. And everything went according to plan. East Timor was given the bare minimum of their own oil and gas, and Australia profited. Of course, Australia is an incredibly rich country, so controlling those oil fields didn't change the lives of the average Australian, but that was not the case for the people of East Timor. It was their best hope to get out of poverty, and Australia took that from them. And at first, you might be thinking, okay, it's bad, but still they just took their oil and they were unfair in the negotiations. But I'm here to tell you that it's far more than that. If this happened between the UK and Norway, I would still say it's bad and unfair, but it would not be nearly as bad. In the following years, thousands and thousands of adults and children died from preventable causes. They suffered from things that people in rich countries don't even think about. 450 out of every 10,000 children would die before reaching their first birthday. So many kids could not even get a minimum education. Diseases that people in rich countries don't even think about, like diarrhea, claimed so many lives. And so many people struggled because they could not get enough food. And you know what's the saddest thing behind all that suffering? It was preventable. If Australia had not stolen the oil, many of those people would have been alive today. They would have friends and family and would be living their lives. But that was not the case. They were collateral damage. For what? So a few Australian companies can make bigger profits than usual? I'm adding this after I almost finished the video because I ran into a quote that annoyed me so much. Remember our friend Alexander from before? Well, during the negotiations, when Timor accused Australia of bullying them and plundering their resources, all of which is true completely, you know what was his response? He had the arrogance to say that the small, poor island country was ungrateful considering everything Australia has done for them. Really, Alexander? Ungrateful? For wanting their own oil so that they can feed their population? You know, I'm not gonna hold back. What Alexander and his colleagues did was disgusting. In terms of consequences, it would be the same as if they landed their military on the island and started shooting people at random. Alexander and other honorable politicians like him and business leaders, they would never murder innocent people for no reason. They would only murder innocent people for slightly bigger oil profits. To quote a YouTube channel much better than mine, Timor sick kids are Australia's biggest donor. But that's not how this ends. There is a second hero in this story, Witness K, an Australian intelligence agent. He went public with the information that showed the entire world how the Australian government spied on its neighbors and then used that information to take away the majority of their oil and gas. He did this after finding out the following. Remember Alexander, the psychopathic villain from before? Well, he went on to make astronomical amounts of money working for the company that profited the most out of this entire situation. Almost as if all of this was not even in Australia's interest. So to sum up, these guys make billions, this guy makes millions, and these people die because they don't have access to a hospital. Way to go, Alexander! But here's the great part. This information was exactly what East Timor needed. Thanks to the revelation, it could sue Australia in front of the International Court in The Hague. And that's exactly what the small island country did. A crucial part of the trial was supposed to be Agent K. He was invited to come to The Hague in the Netherlands and testify. But the Australians were not sitting and doing nothing. They started their own criminal case. But not against the real criminals, against Witness K and his lawyer. They used the opportunity to raid their homes and seize their legal documents. They even went a step further. They seized Witness K's passport. This meant that he could not go to The Hague in the Netherlands, and he could not testify on behalf of East Timor. Make no mistake, this was done on purpose. Still, all this did not work. Thanks to the trial and Australia's own stupid actions, pressure on them was increasing, and now they were the ones that needed to negotiate. An agreement was made. East Timor would get 80% of the money from a crucial gas field. Another important part of the agreement would be that East Timor would not sue Australia for the profit it stole for all the years that it made money off East Timor's resources. Now make no mistake, this agreement is still not fair. East Timor should be given the money that Australia stole. And the greater Sunrise gas field that is so important is much closer to Timor shores than Australia's. So East Timor is the one that should be getting 100% and not 80% of the revenue. But still, this was a major victory for East Timor against a much more powerful and influential neighbor. And although there are many challenges ahead, there is no doubt that this additional revenue that they have fought for years will contribute greatly. It will fund medicine that will save lives, put children through school, and build roads and hospitals. And look, if Australia wants to make things right, there are things that the country can do. It can give full control of all resources that are closer to Timor shores than its own. Also, it can give back the billions of profits that it stole. That sort of money wouldn't be much for the Australian economy, but for Timor it could be huge. Billions and billions of dollars could do so much for Timor's economy. Or the country could do nothing and pretend that this never happened, but there are consequences. This story will spread and spread. And once you find out about it, your opinion of Australia will never be the same. For years, I believed that this was a wonderful and peaceful country, the sort of neighbor you would love to have. And now my first association are the dying kids of East Timor and oil profits. It's no longer the perfect neighbor everyone wished to have. It's the neighbor that looks perfect but is actually a psychopath and will steal your car even when you need to take your sick children to the hospital. Thanks for watching. Sorry that I sound angry at certain parts of the video. Honestly, it's because I am. It's just that this entire situation makes me really upset. But I'm not angry at the people of Australia. I wish them all the best, the same as I wish for the people of East Timor. I don't want us to ignore the tragedy and injustice. I want more and more people to learn about this. Because if we pretend that this didn't happen, it's like saying that the people of East Timor don't matter. And they do. Their lives are not less important than the lives of an Australian, German, or American. Thanks for watching. If even a few people learned about this through this video, it was worth putting all the effort into making it. And if you're interested, I also have other videos. Maybe you're interested in France. Well, here's a video where I rank the country in 5 categories, from lifestyle to geopolitics. Or maybe you will be interested in learning about the 3 crucial ways Eastern Europe is actually far better than Western Europe. It might surprise you. Anyway, if you want to support a small YouTube channel and learn new things in the future, feel free to subscribe. I would really appreciate it.